The Dharma is vast and subtle. We now have a chance to hear it, study it, and practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. The Dharma is vast and subtle. We now have a chance to hear it, study it, and practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. The Dharma is vast and subtle. We now have a chance to hear it, study it, and practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning.
Welcome, everyone. Who's here for the first time? I think there's a lot. That's great. Wonderful. So I'd like to start I'm feeling a lot of gratitude and excitement here. The chaplaincy cohorts 18 and 19 are here. I'm part of cohort 18, and it's just so wonderful to see everyone here. And just a year ago, to think that I'd be here giving a Dharma talk, I couldn't have imagined. So, as we were saying before today, be surprised as you go through. And thanks to Roshi, thanks to Wendy, Kodo, all the teachers, Fushin, all the residents for just creating this beautiful space. And I'm trying new tech today, so we'll see how this works. Hopefully it works good. So I'd like to start tonight by just taking a moment and acknowledging what's happening in the world. We have wars, we have just tremendous suffering, just everything that's going on. And as I was preparing this talk, I ran across a quote that I'd like to read. It's kind of a long quote, but I think it's worth it. And it's from Thich Nhat Hanh, who obviously was very intimate knowledge of war. Here it is. Someone asked me, "Aren't you worried about the state of the world?" I allowed myself to breathe, and then I said, "What is most important is not to allow your anxiety about what happens in the world to fill your heart. If your heart is filled with anxiety, you will get sick, you will not be able to help. There are wars, big and small, in many places, and that can cause us to lose our peace. Anxiety is the illness of our age. We worry about ourselves, our family, our friends, our work, and the state of the world. If we allow worry to fill our hearts, sooner or later we will get sick. Yes, there is tremendous suffering all over the world. But knowing this need not paralyze us. If we practice mindful breathing, mindful walking, mindful sitting, and working in mindfulness, we try our best to help, and we can have peace in our heart. Worrying does not accomplish anything. Even if you worry 20 more times, it will not change the situation of the world. In fact, your anxiety will only make things worse. Even though things are not as we would like, we can still be content, knowing we are trying our best and will continue to do so. If we don't know how to breathe, smile, and live every moment of our life deeply, we will never be able to help anyone. I am happy in the present moment. I do not ask for anything else. I do not expect any additional happiness or conditions that will bring about more happiness. The most important practice is aimlessness, not running after things, not grasping. We who have been fortunate enough to encounter the practice of mindfulness have a responsibility to bring peace and joy into our own lives. Even though not everything in our body, mind, or environment is exactly as we would like. Without happiness, we cannot be a refuge for others. My only desire is to help you see this. How can we bring the practice of mindfulness to the widest spectrum of society? How can we give birth to the greatest number of people who are happy and who know how to teach the art of mindful living to others? The number of people who create violence is very great, while the number of people who know how to breathe and create happiness is very small. Every day gives us a wonderful opportunity to be happy ourselves and to become a place of refuge for others. We don't need to become anything else. We don't need to perform some particular act. We only need to be happy in the present moment, and we can be of service to those we love and to our whole society. And when I read that, I just, my own anxiety, overwhelm, just linking it to, I feel it's even permission to be a different way. It's okay to be a different way. And as we said in, I think it was Wendell Berry in Winter Practice Period, to be joyful even though you know the facts, and to balance that. So I just want to start with that as we just look at where the world is. And the other thing I want to acknowledge is the upcoming Jukai ceremony for chaplaincy, and in chaplaincy group 19 starting on their Jukai journey. And 2 weeks ago, we had a Jukai ceremony, a beautiful ceremony here for local Sangha and Mahasangha and the residents. So there's a lot of Jukai happening. And as I was thinking about the talk, I wanted to know, I was like, well, when was the very, very first transmission? So in Jukai, we make the lineage charts, and at the very end, your name is written in there, your Dharma name, and that goes all the way back. And what's the story to the very first transmission? And so that is the sutra is called the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, and it means the turning of the wheel, or the turning of the wheel of Dharma. And this was the Buddha's first teaching. So I want to give the context. Oh, I don't have a clock. That means I can go as long as I want, Roshi. There's no clock up here. I'll do this. I can't even see that clock. Okay, that works. And so the context here is the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree, saw the morning star, became enlightened, said, I and all beings together have awakened. And then the tradition says he kind of hung out for like 7 weeks. And he sat, he walked, he contemplated, he reflected. And at one point, there was this tension, there was this question. He's like, the Dharma is really deep, it's really difficult, it's kind of challenging. Most people are in attachment. Maybe I shouldn't teach. Maybe, I have enlightenment, it's good. And if that happened, there'd be no Buddhism. We wouldn't be here. There'd be no teaching, there'd be nothing there. And then according to the tradition, the Brahma Sahampati appeared and said, and basically begged the Buddha to teach. And he said that there are those with little dust in their eyes. And the Buddha looked out and kind of had a vision. And he saw beings like water lilies, all at different levels. Some were very deep in the mud. Some were kind of rising up through the water, and a few maybe had touched the light. And so he decided to teach. And then he had the question, who should I teach? And he had these 5 companions, these ascetics that he was practicing with before awakening. And this was very fasting, self-mortification, these very difficult, severe practices. And he decided he would go to them. So he started that journey. And I love this part of the story is they see him coming. So he journeys there, it takes a week or so, and they see him coming, and they're like, we're not going to greet him. We're not even going to greet. They're like, no, we're not going to greet him. He's fallen into luxury. He accepted rice milk. He's they're not going to have anything to do with him. But as he approached them, they saw, something was different. He was not gaunt, nor was he indulgent. And there was a steadiness. And so they stood up. Something had changed. And I like this line. He said, "Do not address the Tathagata as friend. The deathless has been realized." I love that, like deathless. Um, and so he had their attention and he began to teach. And that deathless isn't how to live forever, but it's how to stop dying every moment through grasping, through attachment. And so the first teaching is a teaching we might be familiar with. I was familiar with, but I had until preparing for this, I hadn't gone really deep into it. And there was more to it than I thought. And so the first piece of it is teaching the middle way, like the two extremes. Like there's an extreme of sensual indulgence, but also an extreme of this aesthetic self-mortification. And neither place can you really practice. There's this middle ground. That's the first part of the teaching. And it's not really between two things. It's not this or that, and you're in the middle. It's really kind of beneath or transcending these dimensions. And then he went into the noble truth. So the first noble truth, as we, is that there is suffering. The second is suffering has a cause. Third, it can cease. And the fourth, there's a path. That's the Eightfold Path. So I just want to touch on these briefly. The first noble truth is there's this word dukkha. And birth, aging, illness, death, these are all types of suffering, types of dukkha. Things we don't like, when we're separated from things, inconvenience can fall into here. Just like the list kind of goes on of what might cause this sort of dissatisfaction. Imperfection. Norman Fisher says, what makes suffering is our aversion to it. So I like that. I had like 20 some quotes, but Roshi told me to have fewer quotes. So, which is good advice. But not getting what you want, being inconvenienced. This is all different types of suffering. And that's the first noble truth, this unsatisfactoriness. Second truth is craving. Craving for pleasure, craving for existence, clinging, grasping, insisting. I like that word. It's not really about having desires, it's about insisting on them. Like we all have desires. But when we insist, when we try to force reality somewhere where it isn't, it's like a habit energy. We can transform it. The third noble truth is the end of craving. This is freedom. When craving stops, peace is already there. Cessation. And for me, this is about more of like, and we'll kind of get into this later, the idea of like the possibility. It's like hope in this third truth. And I'll admit, I had kind of looked over dismissed the third noble truth for a while. It was like, okay, just like, let's go to the Eightfold Path. Let's get there. It seems kind of redundant, but it's not, and we'll get there. And then the noble and the Eightfold Path. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking of something that Roshi often teaches is the idea of nyoho, which is things in alignment with the Dharma or things in alignment with reality. So when we hear things like right speech or right action, and we can take that to mean correct or ethical, but I like to think of it more as like kind of aligned, things that are attuned speech. It helps me get out of this kind of rule kind of system around that. So we have attuned view, understanding what reality is, attuned intention, what are harmlessness, nonviolence, attuned speech, speaking truthfully, speaking beneficially, attuned action, acting to not harm others, attuned livelihood, also not causing harm, causing benefit, attuned effort, energy of practice, attuned mindfulness, awareness of your body, of your feelings, and attuned concentration. And honestly, I thought, until I actually read the actual sutra, I thought that was it. I thought there wasn't anything more in the teaching. And then as you go through the sutra, it talks about this like 3 turnings, 12 turnings. I was like, wow, what is that? And as I kind of looked into that, is there are these different phases, and the kind of phases of understanding are working with each of the truths. And the first phase is this understanding phase. And the second is a phase of kind of practice. And the third is a phase of realization. And it was still kind of vague to me. And then I thought more about it, and I'm thinking, this is mind, heart, body. This is taking a teaching through these 3 stages. The truth of suffering. Okay, I can understand that conceptually. And it's kind of a philosophy, we kind of philosophical. But what does it mean to work with it, to practice it, to not turn away from suffering, to see suffering in the world, to, yes, there's suffering and I'm not going to turn away, to work it into your heart. And then after a while, if you let it, it becomes into your body, becomes part of who you are. And when I think about that, I think about even something as simple as, ringing the bell in the zendo are some of the temple rules. Then when you first learn them, they're kind of complicated. It's like, okay, I need to ring 2 times then, and then 1 time, and then there's going to be a chant, and it's in your head, right? And you're thinking, here are the stages, and I have 6 rings, and however it goes. And then you start working with it and practicing it and feeling it and experiencing it. And eventually it's just like, there should be a bell here. It's just in your body. And I think that's true I think that's a way certainly to approach, any teaching of like, we want to understand it, want to fit it into our conceptual realm, and then bring it into the heart, bring it into practice, work with it, experience it. And then eventually that becomes part of who we are. And that's what he was saying in the teaching. Until it wasn't just that he figured out like there's suffering. It wasn't until he went through this full process and that became embodied that the enlightenment happened. And that was totally new to me. I didn't know that was in there. And it's really wonderful. And just an example, you can take something like anxiety. Like you can feel it, like, yeah, I'm anxious. You can really get in tune with it, like what's happening? What does this teach me? And then eventually there'll be a shift in your body and that anxiety will feel different. So you can take it mind, heart, body. But the sutra's not quite done. And the transmission hasn't happened yet. And I thought this was really interesting. So the Buddha had spoken, he gave the full teaching. It's all done, it's all said. But the transmission hasn't happened. And it didn't happen until one of the 5, Kondaya, said, I get it. Whatever is subject to arising is subject to cessation. He understood there was a transmission. So the transmission doesn't happen when the teaching is taught. The transmission happens when the student receives it, when it's understood, mind, heart, body. And so as we look to the Jukai ceremony, I think about that moment when the rakusu is being put on. There's a transmission there if it's received. How can you receive that teaching or any teaching? And so then the wheel turns and Dharma enters the world. And so now I want to go back and talk a little bit about the First Noble Truth, and I want to tell a story here. And this is a story of how I kind of came to understand it, or maybe embody it, maybe sometimes. And it's when I was thinking about it, it's a story of suffering, but also not suffering, or maybe it was suffering, or I'm not sure what it was. Um, and so this was a few years ago. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. It was advanced. It had spread to the bone, and the treatment. There's really 2 treatments. Was the treatment that was we kind of created was it's a combination of hormone therapy and radiation. Um, the hormone therapy was interesting because basically it's taking your testosterone to 0 for 2 years. And when I was reading about it, like the main side effect was just fatigue, just deep fatigue. And I'm thinking like, it's the middle of the pandemic. I'm an epidemiologist. I have all these like customers and clients and hospitals I'm working with. I have two kids at home who are like 15. I'm a solo parent. Like I cannot have fatigue. I was really worried about this. And I remember, and and I remember this is a moment of just strangeness, but they're giving the consent form and for the treatment, and the form says, and I still kind of can't believe this is the title of the form, was consent for medical castration. And like it's like, wow, this is this moment of like, wow, this is like what is this? And coming into that. And so, I received the treatment first, and then the radiation was going to come later. And there was a change. Like I didn't have like this raw energy. But there was like this beautiful connection that was happening. Like meditation was so much deeper, or it was different. I was able to drop in quickly. And I would cry at movies, I'd cry at restaurants. Like I just this like, but it was kind of like there was like the world was like in color too. It was like there was this like beauty to it, and there were also strange things about it, and especially when I was like looking out like working out and the physical side of things. And eventually I went to Houston for the radiation treatment, and I would sit, and I remember this really well. I would sit in the morning. So with the radiation treatment, you had to have your bladder full for the treatment, and then you had to sit really still for 15 minutes. So it was diabolical. And they'd measure you. You had to be exactly full. I remember my number. My number was 363. Like that is how much I had to have in my bladder for the treatment. And then you really need to pee when you have 363, and then you can't move. And so in the morning, while I'm drinking, I would sit and look out the window of the apartment, and I could see, and I was feeling this connection to all of the healthcare workers coming in. It was this like sea of white lights coming off the highway, going into the Texas Medical Center. And I would just meditate and watch them come in, and I was able to feel this like connection and gratitude to them. And in the evening, they would leave, and you'd see the red taillights going out. And every day, thousands and thousands of people, everyone from technicians to doctors, nurses, cleaners, cooks, like they're all coming in to create this possibility of treatment. And it was just amazing. And I just like had this connection and felt that. And I would feel, like I said, I'd feel things in my body, like my workouts were hard. I was kind of crazy because there's like a bone density problem. So I'd wear shoes had like zero padding and wear like a 35-pound rucksack. So I'm like, it was just kind of just trying to do whatever I could. And it was also hard. It was also, like that was difficult, and everything was challenging. And I can remember I would have a video call with Roshi sometimes and go over like what was happening. But the thing that really struck me is as I went back, and you'd go back every day into this room where all the men are waiting for their bladders to get full enough to go get treatment. It's a very strange situation. And I'd ask them like I was curious, like what was their experience? And almost all of them really would be like, I'm so tired. They would just talk about how tired they were, the fatigue. And I'd ask them like, well, did you notice like any of this like emotional change, or is this just? And they're like, no, 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 no. Yeah, they didn't. They're like, I just want things to go back to how they were. I just want things that was the refrain. Like, I just want things to go back to how they were. And I thought about that. It's like, is that what's causing the fatigue? Is this like this fighting? And so I have a restatement. Well, no, it's kind of a restatement of the first noble truth, which is don't argue with reality. It's exhausting, and you're going to lose. And that's what we were seeing. Like I felt like I didn't know how to connect with them. I was really surprised. Like no one was talking about the actual experience of these emotions that were coming, and this kind of beauty that was there too. And so the Buddha called this is from Thich Nhat Hanh. The Buddha called suffering a holy truth because our suffering has the capacity to show us the path to liberation. Embrace your suffering and let it reveal to you the way to peace. And there's another term that Roshi speaks of, and I link to my experience of this, which is this term of samvega, which is this idea of spiritual urgency. Like life is fragile, time's passing. We need to do something. It's the energy that kind of wakes us up. And I was feeling that with this treatment and everything else. Like, what is, this is waking up. And there's another, yeah. So there's this concept, and that's really what when I think of the first noble truth, like suffering, it sounds, it's not exciting, but it's really this samvega. Like when we encounter suffering, when we see it in our own lives or others, can we turn it into this energy that lets us find the truth, find our path, find our way? And then I'm going to jump to the third noble truth. And second. And this is a very fun quote from the Dalai Lama. And he says, if it's not possible to work on that enemy, and by enemy he means grasping, if it's not possible to work on that enemy and eliminate it, then I think we had better forget the spiritual path and rely on alcohol and sex and other things to improve our lives. Without the third noble truth, without this idea that there's cessation, there's something that can happen, I don't know. And the term that Roshi uses for that is pasada, which is this confidence, this trust, this even faith that there is this path and this path can play out. And so you have the suffering is what creates the energy. And then we have this pasada, this knowledge that it can. And for me, that pasada was this place. I'd been I started coming in 2019, and there was a pandemic, I was online, but I knew so many people who were just wonderful, and they were all coming at the path in different ways. And that's what gave me this idea is like, oh yeah, that's pasada. Give like faith, confidence, and trust. If we look around in this room, it's really amazing. And we all managed to get here somehow. And we're all doing such beautiful things in the world. And that's the third noble truth. And so I want to bring this back to Kai, kind of the idea of vows. And I have a couple of quotes. Suzuki Roshi, vow is not quite the right word. For Sanskrit, pranidhana. But he says it means strong wish, aspiration, inflexible determination to carry out one's will, even through infinite rebirths. Buddhists believe so strongly in the power of will that whatever material limitations exist, the vow will triumph over them. And when I think back on the precepts, I really like this idea for myself of thinking of like, where am I in this vow? Am I kind of mind only? I kind of understand it. Am I working? Am I practicing with it? Has it come into my body? Like, where am I for each of these as I think about them? And I kind of ask too, like, what is my samvega here? What is my energy to fulfill this vow? Where's that coming from? That kind of inspiration. Can I find that? And I think that's so important. There's 16 of these vows, and like just choosing one and like, what is my really deep motivation for this? And then where is the pasada? Where is my kind of faith that I can do this? And that's the Sangha. That's all of us. Okimura has a quote in Living by Vow. He says, a vow is like a seal. A vow is like a seal that imprints itself on the wet clay of an emerging life. It makes an impression. It's embodied. And so I just have one last thing. And this stuck with me for a long time I'm going to read it twice. An interviewer once asked Maizumi Roshi, do Buddhists believe in something like a soul that continues after death? Maizumi Roshi answered, no, it is the vow that continues. Do Buddhists believe in something like a soul that continues after death? Maizumi Roshi answered, no, it is the vow that continues. Thank you.
Creations are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless, I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless, I vow. The awakened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless, I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Thank you so much, Butsumon-san. I won't make any jokes about bladders being full. Thank you. Such a amazing experience, and thank you for introducing some wonderful early Buddhist words. Looking forward to studying with you further on those in the coming months. Is there a local Sangha tonight? There is. Wonderful. So if you're in the local Sangha, meaning anybody who wishes, you may go at 7 o'clock to, or right after, immediately to the library to meet with Butsumon and local Sangha to have practice discussions. Tonight, we're full with our wonderful cohorts 18 and 19, so we won't be sharing dinner tonight, but come back next week for Dharma talk with Sensei Dainen, and we'll have some food together and discussion. What else? Anything else happening? This week, we're full out with chaplaincy. It's so wonderful to have our chaplains here, and yeah, come join us in the Zendo if you dare. We're very full, but we have the sunroom open as well. Thank you all so much for your spring practice period in 2 weeks is coming up soon, April 1st, I believe. It's beginning, studying the 10 ox herding pictures. So whether in person or online, especially online, you can join for any part of it, however you wish. We have 2 Zazenkai on Saturdays, full day of sitting, and a sesshin at the end, 6-day long. Also have a local, there'll be a local Sangha study throughout that period as well. So please join for that. Thank you all so much. A resident will hold the begging bowl. Please offer dana. which we will send to the food depot. Thank you for your practice. Wonderful aspiration on this new moon.
And residents not on dinner queen, please stick around to help pack down Aizondo.